Aaron, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Much love, man. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know it's been a minute. It's been a while, like you were on the list for so long, but at least we finally gotten here. Finally.
Yeah. Hey, just patience, right? You just gotta wait. Good things come to those who wait.
Yeah, 100%, like when I look at my list, with the amount of guest submissions that I actually get, sometimes you're only seeing a guest like 2 to 3 months, you know, and they think you're probably like not even interested. But I'm the type of guy, like podcaster, where like I want to get through every single person, even though it may take time. And,
Yeah.
for the listeners over the last 2 months, as I explained, on email as well to you, I had power outages. It was just like completely out of control. But I'm glad to be like finally back and on it and interacting with phenomenal guests like just all around the world. So where are you coming to us from?
All the way around the world. I'm actually in Seattle, Washington, or about an hour and a half south of Seattle. It's the state capital of Olympia. I don't tell people that because no one knows where Olympia is. People know where Seattle is, so I just say Seattle. It's easier.
Yeah. Hectic times, man. I mean, I don't normally involve politics, on the show. Like I have a specific show for that. But what happened yesterday to Charlie Kirk? I was shocked, man.
Yeah.
That was a yeah,
It was absolutely despicable. Doesn't matter what side of the
yeah,
fence you stand on, whether you're red or blue, but it is just, whether you agreed with him, whether you disagreed with him. This is, America is a country that prides itself on free speech and the opportunity to
yeah.
conduct free speech, and to have someone effectively silenced for their speech, clearly political hit, clearly absolutely despicable. And I hope they find the killer. I hope that he's brought to justice.
Yeah, no, 100%, And I mean, he was one of the guys like I followed for a long time. As you said, it doesn't matter like what's your political views, on which side of the fence you actually are. But I mean, his movement with the youth and what he created, I found astonishing, just that alone. But I mean, to pass away in such a manner, tragic, tragic.
It's
For
not
me, as
just
even for us on the other side of the world, it was like, wow,
Yeah. It's not just
what just
tragic,
happened?
it's absolutely horrifying because obviously a life is taken, but then you have a father who is taken of two beautiful daughters. You have a husband
Yeah,
taken from a wife. You have innocence taken from all those thousands of people that saw it in person right there and will never be able to unsee that visual from their mind. And then you have all the people that are online that are seeing the unedited footage that also won't be able to subtract that from their psyche. It's such a cumulatively horrible experience.
yeah. And that's the thing about, the digital era and social media. I mean, the video was viral. As you said, the unedited version, it was viral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
But
awful.
I hope, that, we can all just all around the world, just come to mutual grounds, moving forward.
I
We
hope
can only
so.
hope. Yeah,
Yep.
we can
We
only
will
hope.
hope.
Yeah. But anyway, like I'm just thinking to myself, before we continue, like this morning, the passing away of Charlie Kirk, one of my associates also told me, Kino, you're probably going to have like an interesting podcast, tonight because it's your
Yeah.
evening, my time. And I'm like, yeah, probably because, bulk of my guests are from the US. So, probably may come up, what's up with that. But yeah, look, it actually did. But yeah,
Wow.
all people, just be safe, just be safe
Yeah,
out there.
absolutely. Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and then you have today too, which is just a day of national mourning for Americans that
Yeah.
have any kind of conscience thinking back to 24 years ago. And it's
Yeah.
something that you, I struggle with this because 9/11 is still deeply sacred to me. I didn't lose anybody personally in 9/11, but the heroism and bravery displayed, the colossal loss of life, the sheer impact on the national psyche is something that just doesn't go away. I wrote a book called Forecast. It's a 9/11 historical fiction thriller where a man is struck by lightning. He's imbued with powers he doesn't know what to do with. He is then able to completely prevent 9/11 from happening. He lives in Jersey City across the Hudson from Manhattan in September of 2001. And it's a really novel concept that he's just able to completely prevent 9/11. But still, it's one of my least selling books because I think even 24 years later, people are still unwilling to go back and revisit it. And it's sad because the book is very cathartic. It could be very healing in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, 9/11, impacted everyone all around the world. Like, I even clearly remember I was in the seventh grade. Yeah, it was the seventh grade. And it was a high school play. No, now because of, the time difference, evening again, once again in South Africa. And it was seventh grade, it was a high school play. And I recall my teacher coming to me and saying, "Did you just see what happened in New York?" And then we all saw it, before the play could actually, go live. And it was traumatizing, for all of us,
Yeah.
and it still lives with all of us today. And now there's so many different documentaries as well that's, coming out, different podcast hosts that are, coming out now with their own narrative of what exactly happened, uh, during that period. But yeah, and I only realized it this, this morning, when I was checking out different articles about Charlie Kirk. And then I'm thinking to myself, whoa, hold on, the date, it's 9/11 today as well. And I'm like, sure, what a time for that to actually happen. But yeah, man, anyway, all we can do is come together as humans and just try to heal as much as possible together. That's
Absolutely.
what I personally hope for humanity, moving forward. Dark times. It's not only dark times, like President Donald Trump said, in his statements for America, but it's dark times all around the world, you
Right.
know?
That's one of the reasons I love being an author is just you can provide a certain measure of escapism to readers and auto, like audiobook listeners as well, that gives them a pleasurable diversion from these types of daily things that we're having to do with. I mean, the two school shootings in 2 days. We had the Charlie Kirk, and then you had Everett, or in one day rather, and then you had the Evergreen College. I'm sorry, Evergreen High School shooting in Evergreen, Colorado, the same exact day. And school shootings are just an epidemic. They're a scourge.
Yeah.
It's just so sad that we have to deal with that. But I love writing stories that give a fantastical off ramp from some of the crueler, harsher realities of life. That's why I'm an author. So,
But besides being an author, you have lived a diverse life, author, blogger, speaker, performer, musician. I mean, what haven't you done?
yeah,
And you're still
yeah,
looking
don't get
so
more
fresh, like you can do so much more. You know. So
Well,
let's start
I
there.
haven't never been a CPA. I've never been a CPA, so look at that. Nor do I want to.
Maybe it's on the way. Maybe it's on the way. So let's start there.
Only in
I
fiction.
love to build intimate relationships with all the guests that come on. We live in this world where human connection is so important.
Yeah.
So many guests come back to me and they say, Kino, we appreciate how you started the show, whereas other podcasters just want to jump straight into our work. Excuse me. So I'm all about human connection. So let's start, like, where did it all start for you? Like, what does your day one look like?
Yeah, day one, holy cow. Well, I know where day one of writing started, and that was 1981. I was given an assignment in second grade by my second grade teacher, as everyone was, to come up with a fictional novella. And I wrote something that was called The Electric Boy. It was, crude three-hole punch, college line paper, what is it called? Construction paper, wraparound cover, and crude, stick figure drawings and stuff like that. I called it The Electric Boy. And that was the beginning of my writing journey. It was really only fanned into flame way more when I read The Lord of the Rings for the first time by J.R.R. Tolkien. That just blew my mind. and opened up this imaginative cranium of like, wow, I want to do that as well. But I've always been, even as a kid, I've been really consumed with creative pursuits, whether that's been poetry, writing stories, making music, acting out, not acting out negatively, I mean, acting dramas and stuff, uh, uh, creating crafts, with like three-dimensional crafts. And so I have to create. But I think, gosh, tangibly, the first memory of authoring and starting down that highway, which is still going, was, I'm not going to say how many years ago, because then I'll say how old I was, how old I am, and I don't know how to divulge that yet. But 1981, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, that was even before I was born. Imagine that.
I know. I said I'm old.
But once
That's great.
again,
That's great.
I'm going to repeat myself again. You're still looking so fresh and so energetic, and I love them. I love them. Thank you.
I have a 9 and
Yeah.
6-year-old son that keep me on my toes. So they keep me agile and spry, and yeah, they keep me young.
Yeah. Let's touch on that for a second. When it comes to time management, being an author and being involved in so many diverse projects all at once and still living a family life, how do you do it? Because so many creators battle with that time management. They're
I
so
think
overwhelmed about
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that's most important for any creator to wrap their mind around from day one and to adopt this mindset and never divert from it is you are not a creator. You are a business person who happens to create. And so if you adopt that mindset right away, it does a number of different things. Number one, your craft can't really go anywhere. I mean, maybe it can, maybe you'll get lucky, but your craft can't usually go anywhere unless you have a vehicle to put it on to take it places. So I am a business person. I look at this as a business. I put my craft on the business in order to take it places. If I focus on my business identity first and my craft second, then my craft has somewhere to go. A lot of guys and gals will get into their craft and, oh, I just do this for the enjoyment. That's fine. I mean, I enjoy it too. I just also want to make money off of it.
it.
It's a financial venture as well. But you
Yeah.
have to focus and have that mindset of being a business person first. So I look at myself as a business person who just happens to write stories, a business person who just happens to do voiceovers in that studio back there. And that allows me to treat this much more professionally than I otherwise would.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, and that's the message I try to get through to independent artists, with my agency, is you need to understand that you are a business. And that's when I bring in the 80-20 rule. It's cool to do all the creative stuff, but that's the 20% of the process. The other
Absolutely.
80% business side. So I try to develop them into entrepreneurs, develop that entrepreneurial mindset. But you said it well. Once you understand that, look, I am a business, even if I'm alone, starts and ends with me. I'm not working with an independent label. I do it all myself. I'm my own business manager, PR, distributor, record label, but I am the business. And
Yeah.
if you focus on that, that's how you're going to excel and that's how you're going to sustain yourself. So yeah, thank you for bringing it up. That's a different way of looking at it, eh? It's a complete
Yeah.
shift in the mindset when you look at it that way, how you explained it. So voiceovers, before we jump. Okay, no, sorry, can continue.
Oh no, I was just going to say I actually published a book. It was essentially for self-published authors, indie authors. It's called How to Successfully Self-Publish and Promote Your Independent Book. And a lot of the things that I talk about are business related, wrapping your mindset around a whole new identity that allows you to focus on being a business person first. For example, you're going to spend plenty of money to promote your book. You can look at that money that you're going to spend as an expense, which is something, oh man, okay, if I have to, or you can look at it as an investment, and it's totally different. Expenses are short term, investments are long term. Every dollar that I have sunk into, and sunk is such a negative word, every dollar I've invested into my authoring pursuits is going to someday pay dividends. I'm absolutely convinced of that, and I have to be.
This book was actually one of the books, that I got on my list in front of me that I actually wanted to bring up. and you brought it up yourself, you know. So I mean, it's a book that, I mean, a lot of authors out there actually need to read, because what's happening at the moment, you know, within the space, whenever I interview authors, is they trying to still fill this gap between their work and financially sustaining themselves. You know,
Yeah.
it's still a question that's out there, and they just can't get it right. I'm coming across authors that have hired publicists, they're paying the publicists, but they look at, okay, how much I'm paying the publicists versus how my books are selling. You know, it's not adding up. What more can I do? You know, and even with the top guys, you know, that are not working through a traditional publisher, who are not getting an advance, they still can't solve this equation. Like, it's still, you know, there's a huge question mark there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even solve it, you know. Like, if an independent musician had to come to me and say, okay, you know, what marketing strategies can I use? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna have the answers for you because I work in the industry. But, you know, me personally, I'm also just trying to figure out as well, you know, because now that I've branched out into authors, I'm thinking, okay, how can I help independent authors? Because they put all this time and energy and, as you said, investment into their career, and they end up giving up, you know, maybe on the first book or the first short story, because they're thinking, okay, how am I going to financially provide for my family, you know, for the
Mhm.
next project, sustain for myself? Is there anything you want to share on that? You know, you don't have to give it all away. You know, I love to promote people to actually purchase your book, but any tips and tricks, you know, that you want to mention?
Well, one of the things, I mean, you're looking at it right now, as an author, no one will know that you're an author unless you tell them, right? Same with any other craft. I wear these intentionally. I wear shirts that have to do with authoring. So I don't know if you can see the whole thing, but this is a joke. You know, I suffer from authoritis, a play on arthritis. But and the bottom is a painful chronic need to write. There's no cure. Okay. So I go out into the grocery store or going to my kids' taekwondo or gymnastics or whatever. And I go, you know, I wear these shirts because they're conversation starters. I want people to see them and know I am an author. I have business cards made. Does your average author get business cards made? Probably not. I have vinyl lettering on my back window of my van that says support a local best-selling and award-winning author, you know, and then there's my website. Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? It's a traveling
Yeah,
billboard. Why wouldn't you do craft fairs and vendor markets and get out there and sell your books to people? That's where I sell my books at 100% face value and make 100% on the books and get to meet my readers. Yes, there's a barrier to entry in that you have to pay a fee to enter that vendor market, whatever it is. But you know, I spend this much and I make this much or this much or this much. And why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't
yeah,
you develop flyers that you could hand out? Why wouldn't you develop an official website and have a blog? Why wouldn't you reach out as much as you can and create? I have an exclusive private Facebook group where I announce giveaways and discounts and news on the screenplay that's underway for my book, and the pitching that's going on with that and upcoming appearances. Why wouldn't you do that? You have to think beyond just I'm writing a book. Think beyond.
yeah, yeah. Man, that's really thinking out the box, eh? That's like, you know, blending old school with new school. You know, still using like old school tactics, but also still using, you know, the digital space. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, if you look at the old school musicians, you know, or the DJs that should sit outside clubs, you know, with their boot open, with their demos or their mixtapes, and they're handing it out to people, you know. Now we don't do that these days, because now all we want to do or focus on is marketing on Facebook or marketing on Instagram. But what you
Right.
just mentioned is still effective in this day and age. Put yourself out there. I love what you said about the car. That's good.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? You know, why not? Like, I mean, wow. That's the first time I ever heard that. You know, whenever I do bring up the question, it's always about, you know, algorithms and ads and online magazines. But, you know, you keep spending, but you see nothing, you know, there's no ROI on that. But what you doing? Wow. I love that. I love that, man. That's cool. Yeah.
It's all about getting
So
the word out as much as you can.
Yeah, as much as you can and blending the two together. And I mean, when I think about it right now, there's so many markets and stalls that you can get yourself involved in, and just go there
Right.
with your books, put it out there.
Well, this right here, Kino, this is a classic example of something that I don't have to do, but I love to do, and that's appearing on podcasts. I'm a member of the Authors Guild, and there's a current debate running between someone who just, doesn't see the value in it and wants to see a clear empirical scientific delineation and connection between appearing on podcasts and uptick in book sales. Sometimes you're not going to see that, but I'm a big believer in possibilities. You can call me if
Yeah,
I was a trans I would be Optimist Prime because honestly, why not appear on podcasts? Why not get out there and tell people and reach a wider audience? Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but why not get out there and reach a wider audience and tell people about these books that you care so much about, that you've taken so long to write with so much heart and passion? Man, get out there.
yeah, get out there as much as possible. There's pros and cons when it comes to appearing on a podcast. As I said earlier on, podcasting is here. I feel even though the market has grown exponentially, we're still in the early stages. It is the future. Traditional radio station is on a decline. It's decentralized. You can come on, speak your truth, speak about your journey, build that human connection because that's where people are at the moment. But podcast
Yeah,
alone is not going to do it for you. And
right.
one thing I focus on a lot is for people to stop focusing on the vanity metrics. Yeah, you can jump onto a podcast. It's understanding how the business actually operates as well, educating yourself on that. What I would love to call the dark side of the industry, whether it be the music industry or whether it be the book industry. How the top guys actually do it. Um, but it's not enough. Like if you post something of, let me say this, I upload an episode. Okay, cool. It's gaining traction, and you're getting about 1,000 views on the episode, or the reel, gets about 2K views. You need to compare it now to the data of my book. Okay, there's 2,000 people that interacted with what I posted online, but was 2,000 books sold? And
Right.
99% of the time, it's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the case at all. There's people that don't even focus on vanity metrics that get zero views, zero likes, but their book sales are through the roof. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The only reason they online is just because of visibility. You know,
Right. Yeah.
so keeping the
Yeah, I
balance.
mean, it's there. Boy, this is almost the exact conversation that I've had with between two different individuals. That it was a conversation they were having that I stumbled into, and frankly, it was pursuant to a post that even a fourth person was involved in this. So it was a person posting about, "Hey, we're told we should appear on podcasts, and what do you think?" And then this lady responded, and this man, and he just won't leave her alone. He's constantly arguing about metrics, and I've got to see that it will work and pay for itself. And ultimately, life's too short for that. Write your books, go get out there. You don't have to see a direct tie-in to book sales. And honestly, is that really what it's all about? This podcast is going to reside in perpetuity, I would assume, somewhere in social media, or last for a while, a long while at least. Someone may stumble upon this 3 years down the road, and then they go, "Oh, that sounds cool. Oh, he had that book. I'll go buy that book." You won't be able to quantify or tie in that sale with that podcast. That needs to be okay. What is even more important in this, though, is just having the mindset of treating this like a business and putting yourself out there as much as possible everywhere you can, without Bo Jacksoning everything and appearing too much, or New Kids on the Block and appearing too much everywhere. Don't oversaturate, but man, believe in possibilities that this may lead somewhere. It's a cumulative net positive effect of getting yourself out
Yeah,
there.
and don't always put it down to a price. Like if I have
Yeah,
to appear on a podcast now and take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour of my time, and you think it to yourself, oh no, but I'm not getting paid. And what benefit is this bringing me financially? Come on, there can't be the reason why you don't,
Yeah.
like for my podcast, and there's 2 other podcasts within my network. It's all nonprofit. It's all nonprofit because, this show is to empower independent creatives who do listen to the show, to tell them that there is, light at the end of this road that you're traveling down, and also to promote the guest that comes on. But it's also up to the guest as well to take what comes out of the show when it is posted to do their best to also market it. I love when guests come on and they say, as soon as it's posted, they're also going to put it onto their website and promote it. But the strange part is there's a good percentage that don't do that.
Right.
So what result are you really expecting, to come from it if you don't also promote it yourself and use it to your advantage, leverage, being on that podcast,
Right.
to your advantage? What can I do with it? You have to just think.
Yeah, I think it's very much like the Chinese bamboo tree parable. You're going to plant it. For the first year, you're not going to see any visible signs of activity. Year 2 is going to go by, no real signs of growth. 3 and 4, nothing. And then all of a sudden, it's going to explode, because what it's been doing underneath is it's been putting out these roots, and it's been establishing stability and solidarity and a foundation to grow upon. And then here comes, year 5, and boom, all of a sudden, whoa, here it comes, and it's strong and it's growth. And it's just kind of that investment over the long haul. That's the difference between a hobbyist. That's the difference between a hobbyist and an entrepreneur. A hobbyist is like, come on, I need these right away. I have no patience. I've got to see results.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur is like, no, I'm in this for the long haul. This is a slog, and I'm not going to see, my sales are going to go like this. And eventually they're going to do that exponential curve. But this is a long slog. Until then, you've got to survive and learn how to thrive during that time.
Also, passion. You have to have passion for what you're doing. If you don't have passion for what you're doing, of course you're going to give up. A passionate individual about whatever creative work they are doing is going to be in it for that long haul, for the long trip. I'm in it all the way. I'm either going to do this or God, please take me now. That's passion. That's what keeps you going. Like, I'm going to use my experience, my journey. It's not an easy journey building whatever you may be building. It's going to take time. But one thing I've realized for myself is that when you eliminate all the limited beliefs and you truly believe what you're building is not only going to bring huge benefits to my life, but it's also going to benefit humanity. You see the universe providing for you. You see God providing for you along the way. How many times, and I'm sure you can relate to this, you wake up thinking, sure, how am I going to pay for this? But you still go and do what you have to do. You still show up on the podcast. You still get into the studio, whatever. Okay, it's not bringing me the funds I'm going to need tomorrow, but some way, somehow, God provides, because you are doing it with true passion, true intentions, wholeheartedly. That faith is there. And that's what's worked out for me, That's really what's worked out for me. Whereas the average person who's doing it for the fun of it, or because of the money, or because of the fame, it's not going to work out. You're going to give up. And
you have to have faith.
Yeah.
You have to have faith to continue. It is I love, there's a phrase that when people ask me, why do you love, dystopian or post-apocalyptic novels and stories? What I love about them is just, you really can only go up, right? One of the greatest phrases I've ever read in any novel ever was uttered by President Snow in the Hunger Games. He was talking to talking to the head game maker at the time, Seneca Crane, and he says, "Hope. It is the only thing stronger than fear." So that can translate to real life too. Obviously, it's very pertinent in the story, but it definitely can translate to real life in that you've got all these people that just want to write great stories and want people to read their stories that mean so much to them. And there's a fear about getting it out there amongst people, about sticking it out over the long haul, about really hanging in there and seeing that fruit, in the future pay off. Um, there's that fear, but can your hope outlast that? Can your hope carry you beyond that fear? It's the only thing stronger than fear. I just love that phrase because that can communicate a lot of intention on an author's part, rather, to just stick it out for the long haul. And boy, would I love to see all of my books selling like crazy all the time. That doesn't happen. Someday it will, though. I utterly believe it.
That's it. You already created the feeling within for yourself. It starts internally. You've already created
Yeah.
that feeling. It's already there, and eventually it will work out. Thank you for sharing it, man. Much appreciation. That's huge
Yeah.
motivation, for listeners who tune in. You're a diverse author, right? So
I am.
you've also focused on sci-fi thrillers. Do you want to touch on that? Your books in that
Yeah. So I
genre,
mean,
why
yeah.
that genre,
Which other genre?
like sci-fi thrillers.
Oh, well, that's predominantly what I write is science fiction, post-apocalyptic, dystopian. But I've written 3 children's books because I have two kiddos. I wrote them for them. I wrote a historical fiction novel about called Forecast, about a 9/11 being completely undone. I wrote a literary criticism book on examining The Lord of the Rings, why I believe it's the best quintessential work of fantasy fiction. I wrote a disaster fiction novel about a supermassive black hole on the way to the Milky Way galaxy. I wrote a dystopian paranormal dark fantasy thriller called The Phoenix Experiment, which just published last Saturday. I like to keep my offerings, and I've written several business books for voiceovers and otherwise. I like to keep my offerings diverse because I like to be stretched and I like to try new things. I don't think anybody should be pigeonholed into a single genre if they don't want to. Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff that can be written out there. So if I'm called to it, I'm going to write it.
I love how you just said that. If you call to it, it's a
Yeah.
calling. You know, there's plenty creators out there who just love to keep to work, that complements the next instead of like branching out. But I guess depends what type of creative individual you actually want um, to be.
Yeah.
So, with your work till date, and we look at how technological advancements are happening globally, especially with artificial intelligence, what's your take on that? Do you see AI as a threat to authors or as a best friend, an associate and a partner?
No, I see it as a liability and I see it as a threat. Now, not on the level of Skynet and wiping out humanity with Terminators, but it has done. I don't know that it would be called irreparable damage, but it has done substantial damage to the career of mine as a voiceover artist and my career as an author. And here's how. As a voiceover artist, I have seen many of my long-term relationships with producers axed. They're no more because either the producer got replaced because they're now using AI to create the videos, or I've been replaced because they're just going to use a synthetic voice rather than my own. And so we have seen our income steadily erode since 2023. I wonder what happened then. That's when Chat GPT and OpenAI came to the fore. And so in tandem with that, you had, the SAG after a strike and the economy and underbidding colleagues and lowballing clients. Yes. But AI, has done irreparable harm to the voiceover industry. To authoring, you have so many people that are feeding Grok or Chat GPT or whatever a few little prompts. They can get virtually a whole story. They copy and paste it into a book, and then they go to Midjourney, also AI, give it a few prompts, have it create their cover, slap it all together, throw it up on Kindle Direct Publishing, and boom, they call themselves an author. They're a capitalist. They're a greedy capitalist. And people see through that. You got on the covers, you've got people with, 6 fingers and a dripping face, and, things don't make sense. And then in the narrative itself, in the story, you've got discrepancies and you've got like, what? It just doesn't make sense. It's artificial intelligence. Nothing beats this. So have I used Grok as an experiment to generate ideas for a story? Sure. I did that once, I believe. I think I actually did it twice for two different books. But never have I ever, nor will I ever use AI to flesh out any narrative of any of my stories. I want to create it. It's mine. And it comes from here and here, not microchips and ones and zeros. I treasure that, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you said, like, okay, the guy now who has 6 fingers, there's been a lot of like weird traditional art, you know, throughout history. Some would say that if I've created something with AI and the guy has 6 fingers, it's just another form of weird art.
No, it's not. It's when you generate. I actually had someone do this for me until I found out. I didn't know they were actually using AI because I was new to it, and they created some random imagery for Dissonance, my Alien Invasion saga, and a bunch of the people in their fingers were all weird, and AI can't get that right. Several people have like 6 fingers or 4 fingers, or distorted hands and just weirdness.
Yeah,
It's not art. It's just AI not being able to figure itself out.
yeah. But the thing is, and I mean, look, I keep an eye on all, new improvements with all these platforms. And I'll mention one, Leonardo AI. And the
Mhm.
first time I came across Leonardo AI, typed, few prompts, check what happened. I saw, okay, cool. As you mentioned, some things do look extremely weird. You can see this was not professionally designed by a human. But now, if you go on to it, they just keep creating, newer versions, newer models. And now when I type in the same prompt, it's actually coming out like, okay, 5 fingers are there now. So it
Yeah.
is getting advanced, that we can't, eliminate, with the different model. It's just going to keep getting more advanced. But then, of course, us as humans are to blame as well, because AI is learning from each time we interact with any technological device. Because all of these big tech companies behind the scenes are working together. So whatever device you may be on or working on, I feel, and it's just an opinion, that it's pulling all that information. And that's why it's getting more and more and more advanced.
Yep, I get it. The problem with AI, the moral issue, the quandary about AI is that it is trained on the backs of creatives, and that's why there are lawsuits right now, such as the Anthropic lawsuit that's happening that they just settled. It's trained on the backs of creatives and creative works with no crediting the original creator, with no remuneration to them. It's hijacking what you have used in order to train generative AI at the cost of the environment, at the cost of the industries. It's diluting the marketplace of good offerings with those that are created by AI. It's creating misinformation in reels that you see like on TikTok with giant catastrophes and calamities like a big tsunami overwhelming a coastal town. And everybody's walking along shopping, just la 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 la. Here's this giant tsunami coming at them, and they're just la 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 walking along with their bags, shopping, and it inundates the town, it destroys the town, it kills the people, and then you have people watching that reel, real humans out here watching that TikTok reel and going, "Oh, those poor people." And I'm just, I read those comments and go, "You actually think that's real?" It's just so pathetic. It's getting
Oh,
visually too convincing. Uh, so some people actually swallow it hook, line, and sinker. They think it's real, and that is the fundamental base of misinformation.
yeah. Man, there's so much software that's getting developed, that's AI related, in making, as you said, those sort of visuals. Now you can make your own movie, you
Yeah,
know. Yes, you really gonna be, you really have to use what's up there, your God given gift, to determine, what's real and not in this world that we live in. Honestly, and so many people are getting scammed as well because of that,
yeah, yeah.
you know, because you fall
AI
into those
voices.
traps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as a voiceover artist, I my recordings are out there all over the world, and they'll be there for a long time. And so I've had to repeatedly brief my my mom, my dad, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law. Uh, no, well, anyway, my wife's dad divorced, and so he has two mothers or two wives. Never mind what I said. Never mind what I said. Maybe let me run all this through an AI filter and see if it can come out any clearer. Um, anyway, it's I've had to repeatedly warn them and say, hey, if you hear anybody ever call you and sounds like me and say they're trapped on some, third world country and they need money desperately and I'm being held ransom, by these kidnappers, whatever. It's not me. Here's the code that you should use to verify that I am in fact me. Ask me what's the secret code. And that person, that AI isn't going to know my secret code. So I have to tell them, man, if you ever get a call like that, use that code and determine if it is in fact me. Because my recordings are out there. I'm easy to duplicate.
Yeah.
It's scary.
You can easily get cloned. There was one
That's
platform I
scary.
read on once, and it had all the mainstream artists, vocal by vocal. And I mean, if you don't have a good year, I mean, you won't know the difference. But then
Yeah.
you have some artists who are actually now signing away the rights to the big tech companies. Yeah, no problem. You can use my vocals. And the mainstream record labels, they're jumping on board. They can come onto the scene and be like, yeah, we are gangsters and, we are going to sue you. But end of the day, it's about what's going to make them money. It's about bottom line. This is unstoppable. So there's been a few cases, where they are actually pushing artists into a corner to say, look, we are going to sign away your vocals. Imagine, right? That's where we are now. We are going to sign away your vocals because it's inevitable.
Yeah. Well, James Earl Jones, actually, before he passed, he had a contract to license out his voice. I mean, he's got an inimitable voice, Darth Vader. And so he licensed his voice to AI before he passed. And so that, was a huge, like, oh my gosh, why? I get it. But it's one of those things where like, hey, he's going to do what he's going to do. You got proponents, you've got opponents, whatever. See how it all works out in the end.
So as a voiceover artist, I mean, according, to your bio, you work with huge names out there. So has this affected you in any way, or do you think, it will affect you in any way with the advancements of AI?
Oh no, that's what I just said. AI has been entirely destructive to the voiceover career. Again, we've seen longtime producers that we've worked with that are either replaced by AI to produce the videos, or they've replaced me with AI voices. So no, absolutely, I've seen it very destructive, corrosive, harmful to my career, and our income has eroded as a result. I don't see it going away. I don't see it being any kind of benefit as long as there's no legislation to control it. There needs to be legislation in order to limit the use of AI, especially when it comes to consent. You can't use someone's voice. My voice as a voiceover artist, my voice is my product. So you can't take my voice. Yeah, it's my intellectual property. It's my IP. You can't take it and run away with it and use it to say whatever you want. And there have been lawsuits to that effect as well that we've already seen. It's a dangerous technology and it's a wild, wild west of it right now.
It's so complex, eh? When you talk about it, it's really so complex. I mean, you mentioned legislation. I mean, that's been on the table for how long now? And I mean, there's still nothing that's solid, on the table. I had an entertainment attorney once come onto the show a few months ago, and she said she is focused daily on what's happening with legislation, what's happening with laws, and there's still nothing solid on the table. All they can do from their part, in case they do get a client who comes to them to say, look, you know what, my voice was cloned or used without my permission, whatever it may be. But I mean, it's still so complex and complicated for them as attorneys as well.
Yeah, there's no precedent for it. There's no precedent. So how do you prosecute it? How do you present it? How do you litigate it? What potential remedies do you propose? I mean, it's like, wow.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. I just want to, touch on what you said a few minutes ago, about because you got all these platforms that are out there, you can create an ebook in 5 minutes. Okay.
Mhm.
People are jumping onto it. You have now labeled them capitalists. They can push out 100 books maybe a week, because they want to get it monetized. The concern, with me is that this is what's stopping talented creators from putting their work out there, because they are like, whatever, it's a flooded market. And now we have AI in the mix as well. How am I going to build a career for myself? And they just give up. And it's sad. It's really sad.
Here's the advice that I would give. Oscar Wilde, I quote this often because it is such a paramount quote. Oscar Wilde said, "Be you, everyone else is already taken." So when you start basically retreating into this noise and allowing yourself to be overtaken and overcome, and then just, you decide, fine, okay, you throw your hands up in despair and you go, fine, I'm going to use AI like the rest of them. That's not the answer. It's kind of like legalizing marijuana. I don't know that that was necessarily the answer. You don't just give in and go, okay, let's approve of this thing that we've disapproved of for so long. It's not the answer. The answer is towing the line and standing firm. It always has been. So Oscar Wilde says, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. All these AI creations are all trained on the backs of all these creatives anyway, without their knowledge or consent. So the best way that you can be yourself, because they're already taken, is continue to stand out from that herd and be yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
don't give in, don't give up, don't fold, don't cave. Continue to toe the line and just write good material, create good voiceovers. Just continue to try to stand out from the herd and be heard as much as you can.
Stop comparing.
I don't feel. Yeah, what was that?
I was going to say, stop comparing yourself. One of my coaches actually said something that's very similar. That is, be the first you, not the second somebody else.
Yeah. Oh,
You
it's
know,
great. That's so
because
rich.
because as
Yeah.
a musician, you tend to always have someone that you idolize, your whole life. And you want to be so much more like them that you haven't really focused or self-reflected on who I am.
Right.
So be the first you. And just to add to that, in a world with billions of people, there's an audience for everyone. Find
Mm-hmm.
your audience.
Exactly.
That's always been my message. I can't focus on your audience. I may support you as an author. I love your work. I'm also a writer myself, but I also need to find my audience, because my story is going to resonate with these bunch of people, not
Yeah.
your people. So there's an
Yeah.
audience for everyone. You just need to find them, and then you need to build a community around them, which is also one of my solutions to this, is build a community, because a community is always going to be loyal to you. So whether you are releasing a business book, or whether you are releasing a science fiction book, whether you're releasing merchandise, they're going to have you back. They're going to support you. So building a community, critically important for any creative out there.
Find your people. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually working with a marketing guy right now. I never have. This is the first time, and I really appreciate what he's putting out for me. And I've been focusing on branding. What I usually will put out is something promotional about a book, about one of my books. But what I need to instead focus so much more on is just is the branding. Who is what? Not what is the book, but who is Aaron Ryan? And so I honestly I came up with three things for me. I'm a sci-fi enthusiast at heart. And when I write sci-fi. When I talk and I share with people, I'm very enthusiastic. And when I write my books, they are full of heart. So I am therefore a sci-fi enthusiast at heart. And I'm very comfortable with that branding. Have I written other things? Yes. But ultimately, my wheelhouse is sci-fi, and I've been focusing so much more on branding lately, so that I can know who I am, and therefore I can find the people who are my audience. It's more targeted.
Yeah. One thing I learned from a branding coach is she used a triangle, right? And within this triangle, and she used Apple and Steve Jobs as an example, when it comes to brand. She's a branding expert. She says you got your brand, your company brand, and your product brand. And all three you have to market differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to market differently.
You do.
So yeah. So who you're working with, you moving from my personal experience, in the right direction. The right direction. It makes me think, whenever an artist comes to see me, like we don't just jump into studio, that's not the starting point for me. As I said, 80% business. And I give them the self-awareness questionnaire. And one of the questions is, who am I? And you would be shocked at the answers we get back these days. People do not know who they are. There was one artist, who answered the question with his name and surname. It's all,
He answered the
it's
question
so
how?
with his name and surname.
Oh.
The question is, who are you? You're giving me your name and surname.
Yeah, not what is your name? Who are you?
Exactly. So how are you going to sell yourself to the market? Like when we started the show, what I told you, what I do on the podcast is building human connection. Before people purchase your book or listen to your music or buy your merchandise, they first want to build a connection with you. We live in an emotionally driven world.
Yeah.
Why should I buy your book? Why should I listen to your music? Why?
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah. Who are you? So that's why brand building is so important. So I'm glad that you also brought that up, so I don't sound like an idiot every time I mention it alone. How important it is. They're getting scared by everyone all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as an author, this is why I don't do book fairs, by the way, because book fairs, we are all authors in a nice little row, and we're all clamoring for the attention of all of these readers coming through. I'm not unique there in any respect. I am an author next to an author, 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 next to an author. And so I'm not unique. But at vendor markets and craft fairs, here I am. Over here, you've got a blown glass artisan, and you've got someone who makes beadwork. Over here, who does stained glass, a portrait studio, whatever. There's commercial and artisan alike. Author, right in the middle of that, author. And yes, it is a creative craft. It's mine. And so I'm very unique in those environments, and I sell really well at vendor markets. So it's standing out, always about standing out and making yourself unique. In a world of influencers, schminfluencers everywhere, the more unique you can make yourself stand out, there you go.
Yeah. I got a friend who's an author. He's based in Texas. And he was talking about how book festivals have grown in India, where it's no longer, where you go there and it just stall with books. It's become like a music festival, So it's evolved into like a music festival sort of vibe where there's also alcohol that's getting sold. There's a DJ that's playing, it's evolved in that manner. And he's like, why are we not doing this here? This is what we need to do here. So I'm like, okay, you get it going. Get the trend started in the US, like spice it up a bit.
It's so important for you as a creative to think outside the box and to think of new intuitive ways to differentiate yourself from everybody else who's doing perhaps the same thing, and to be a pioneer. I love being able to share some of the ways that I creatively market to my readers or customers, and then having another author go, "Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that?" It's not necessarily rocket science, and it's not necessarily innovative every time, but it's something that they haven't done and haven't tried, and that little brush with them fuels them to go, "I'm going to do that, man." So it's great.
Yeah. We have to keep educating ourselves. We have to
All the time.
It is what it is. I mean, this has been an insightful conversation. So where can listeners find you online and learn more about you?
Yeah. Favorite question. Yay. they can actually go straight to authoraaronryan.com. That is my main site. I have to clarify, it's not awfulaaronryan.com. It's authoraaronryan.com. But just on a lark, I actually bought awfulaaronryan.com and made it forward to Author Aaron Ryan. So in case somebody does mishear that. Authoraaronryan.com has all my books, the works in progress, photos, videos, blog. You can also go to authoraaronryangroup.com, and that is my exclusive Facebook group where you can learn more, interact, engage, hear about discounts, giveaways, things like that. So anyway, authoraaronryan.com, authoraaronryangroup.com, and authoraaronryanstore.com. That's where you can buy the books.
Nice. I'll make sure I put that in the description. Aaron, this has been phenomenal. Thank you once again for coming on and just sharing so much dopeness, man. Sharing so much dopeness, not only about the own work, but also, you shared so much that can inspire so many independent creators around the world. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And all the best going forward with all your work, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep being an inspiration. All right, cool, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.